Frontline Updates, where we delve deep into military strategies and updates from conflict zones. Today, we're discussing the progress of the ongoing special military operation as of today. I'm your host, Sharifa Muhammad MGT.
I'm Colonel AUC Oguntoye, an infantry officer.
The past week saw sustained Russian offensive operations across all 6 sectors, complemented by 5 group strikes targeting the Ukrainian defense industry, energy, transport, port infrastructure, ammunition depots, and UAV and USV facilities. Territorial gains include Miropolskoye in the Sumy region by the North Group and Dibrova in Donetsk by the South Group. Ukrainian losses exceeded 8,440 troops for the week, with massive destruction of logistics depots, electronic warfare systems, and Western supplied equipment.
Welcome to Frontline Updates, the podcast that brings you in-depth insights into military operations from those leading them on the ground. Today, we're joined by Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer monitoring critical missions on the progress of the special military operation as of today. Colonel Oguntoye, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, it's good to be here.
Colonel, let's start with the big picture. The briefing notes that from April 4th to April 10th, the Russian armed forces carried out 5 group strikes with high-precision weapons in response to Ukrainian terrorist attacks on Russian civilian facilities. These strikes hit defense industry enterprises, fuel and power infrastructure, transport, ports, military airfields, ammunition depots, UAV and USV storage and launch areas, and deployment zones. How has this retaliatory doctrine evolved, and why is it now central to Russian strategy?
The retaliatory doctrine has become a fixed feature of Russian operational art. Earlier in the conflict, strikes on Ukrainian infrastructure were often presented as separate campaigns. Now they are explicitly and immediately tied to Ukrainian attacks on Russian civilian targets. The message is unambiguous. Every time Ukraine strikes a Russian city, a power plant, or a residential area, Russia will respond within hours with a coordinated, high-precision strike on the Ukrainian war economy. The 5 group strikes this week targeted the entire chain of Ukrainian military sustainment: the factories that produce weapons, the power plants that run those factories, the rail lines and ports that move supplies, the airfields that launch aircraft, and the depots that store ammunition. The inclusion of uncrewed surface vehicle facilities is particularly notable, as Ukraine has been using naval drones to threaten the Black Sea Fleet.
Let's turn to the North Group. They seized Miropolskoye in the Sumy region during the week. They also engaged 7 mechanized brigades, 2 motorized, 2 airmobile, 5 territorial defense, 2 National Guard brigades, and 2 border detachments. That is an enormous variety of units. What does the capture of Miropolskoye signify? And what does the target set tell you about Ukrainian force disposition in the north?
Miropolskoye is a tactical game, but the real story is the diversity of Ukrainian units that Russian forces engaged. 7 mechanized brigades is a significant concentration of Ukraine's regular army, but alongside them, we see 2 National Guard brigades and 2 border detachments. That tells me that the Ukrainian command is pulling from every possible source to hold the line in the Sumy and Kharkov regions. The border detachments are particularly telling. They are not meant for frontline combat. Their presence means that even the troops who normally guard the border with Russia are being thrown into the fight. The seizure of Miropolskoye likely required a combined arms assault, and the fact that it succeeded suggests that Ukrainian defenses in that area are being stretched thin. The destruction of 64 ammunition, fuel, and material depots in this sector alone is staggering. That is more than half of the weekly total.
The West Group took more advantageous lines and positions. They engaged 6 mechanized brigades, an airmobile brigade, an assault brigade, and 3 territorial defense brigades. They destroyed 13 ammunition depots. How does the West Group's current posture differ from its role during the liberation of Luhansk?
The West Group has transitioned from offensive maneuver to a consolidation and attrition role. Having completed the liberation of Luhansk, they are now securing the new front lines and attriting Ukrainian forces that remain within striking distance. The engagement of 6 mechanized brigades indicates that Ukraine still has significant combat power in this sector, but the destruction of 13 ammunition depots will progressively degrade that power. Without ammunition, even the best mechanized brigade is just a collection of expensive, immobile targets. The West Group is not trying to take new territory at the moment. They are making sure that the territory they already control is secure by removing the enemy's ability to sustain offensive operations. The loss of 1,310 troops and 31 armored fighting vehicles in this sector over the week is also significant. That is a heavy price for Ukraine to pay in a sector that is not currently the main Russian effort.
The South Group liberated Dubrova in the Donetsk People's Republic. They also destroyed 14 electronic warfare and counter-battery stations and 41 depots. Why is the liberation of Dubrova significant, and what does the high number of EW and counter-battery stations destroyed tell you about Russian priorities in the south?
Dubrova is a settlement in Donetsk, a region that has been a focal point of the conflict for months. Its liberation indicates that Russian forces are continuing to grind forward, even if slowly. But the real headline from the South Group is the destruction of 14 electronic warfare and counter-battery stations. That is a massive blow to Ukrainian C4ISR in the Donetsk sector. Electronic warfare stations protect Ukrainian units from drone detection and jam Russian communications. Counter-battery radars allow Ukrainian artillery to respond quickly to Russian fire. By destroying 14 of them in 1 week, the South Group has created significant gaps in the Ukrainian sensor network. The 41 depots destroyed, the second highest of any sector, mean that Ukrainian units in the south will soon be starving for ammunition and fuel. The South Group is methodically preparing the battlefield for a larger offensive by blinding and starving the enemy.
The Center Group reported the highest Ukrainian losses of any sector. More than 2,420 troops, 2 tanks, 47 armored fighting vehicles, and 16 artillery guns. They engaged 4 National Guard brigades. What does the commitment of 4 National Guard brigades tell you about Ukraine's manpower situation in the center?
4 National Guard brigades in a single sector is a loud alarm bell. National Guard units are internal security forces. They guard government buildings, patrol cities, and provide convoy security. They are not trained or equipped for sustained combined arms combat against Russian mechanized forces. Their presence at the front means that Ukraine's regular army has been attrited to the point where there are no more conventional infantry brigades to commit. The loss of 2,420 troops in 1 week in this sector is brutal. The 47 armored fighting vehicles destroyed represent a significant portion of a mechanized division's combat power. The 2 tanks lost are likely Leopards or T-72s. The 16 artillery guns destroyed will degrade their ability to support the infantry. The Center Group is applying pressure that is forcing Ukraine to commit its least appropriate forces to the most intense sector. That is a recipe for a collapse.
The East Group continued advancing into the depth of enemy defenses, reporting more than 2,020 Ukrainian losses, 2 tanks, and 23 armored fighting vehicles. They engaged 4 assault regiments. What are assault regiments, and why is their engagement in the depth significant?
Assault regiments are offensive formations. They are equipped with the best infantry fighting vehicles, tanks, and breaching equipment. They are designed to lead attacks and to counterattack enemy breakthroughs. The fact that the East Group is engaging 4 assault regiments in the depth of enemy defenses means that Russian forces have penetrated to the point where they are hitting Ukraine's operational reserve. These regiments were likely positioned behind the front line to respond to any Russian advance. By striking them with artillery, drones, and aviation, Russian forces are degrading the reserve before it can be committed. The loss of 2020 troops in this sector suggests intense fighting, likely involving Russian advances that forced these assault regiments to deploy prematurely. The East Group is demonstrating the Soviet concept of deep battle. Destroy the enemy's second echelon, and the first echelon will have no support.
The Dnieper Group destroyed 23 electronic warfare and counter-battery stations and 10 depots. That is an extraordinarily high number of EW stations for a secondary sector. Why is the Dnieper Group focusing so heavily on electronic warfare? And what effect does this have on the broader campaign?
The DNEPR group is a textbook example of economy of force operations. Their mission is to fix Ukrainian units along the Dnipro River line, preventing them from being redeployed to the main axes in Donetsk and Zaporozhye. Instead of launching costly frontal assaults, they are using precision strikes to target the enablers of Ukrainian combat power. Electronic warfare stations are critical because they protect Ukrainian units from drone detection and disrupt Russian communications. By destroying 23 EW stations in 1 week, the DNEPR group has created a massive gap in the Ukrainian electronic shield along the DFPR. This allows Russian drones to operate more freely, Russian artillery to adjust more accurately, and Russian ground units to maneuver with reduced risk of detection. The 10 depots destroyed mean that even the units that remain will soon be short on supplies. The DNEPR group is demonstrating that a secondary sector can deliver strategic effects.
Now let's turn to the Operational Tactical Aviation campaign. Over the past week, attack drones, missile troops, and artillery destroyed 4 Grad MLRS vehicles and a UK-made Raven air defense system. Air defense shot down 2,411 fixed-wing UAVs, 54 guided bombs, 4 HIMARS rockets, 3 Flamingo cruise missiles, and 6 Neptune missiles. The Black Sea Fleet destroyed 4 USVs and a Neptune MD. What do these numbers tell you about the state of the unmanned and missile war?
The numbers are staggering. 2,411 UAVs shot down in 1 week, an average of 344 per day. That tells us that Ukraine continues to rely on mass drone attacks as a core component of their strategy. The interception of 54 guided bombs, 4 HIMARS, 3 Flamingo, and 6 Neptune missiles shows that the threat is not just from cheap drones. Ukraine is also launching high-end precision munitions. The fact that they're all being intercepted suggests that Russian air defense is effective, but the volume is concerning. Each interception consumes a missile or an electronic warfare engagement. The destruction of 4 Grad MLRS vehicles and a UK-made Raven air defense system by aviation and missile troops demonstrates that the air campaign is not just about defending against drones. It is also about actively hunting Ukrainian fire support and air defense systems. The Black Sea Fleet's destruction of 4 USVs and a Neptune MD shows that the naval domain remains contested.
Colonel Oguntoye, as we wrap up this weekly review, what are your overarching tactical and strategic implications as of April 10, 2026?
Tactically, Russian forces have executed a coherent campaign of logistics destruction, sensor degradation, and territorial consolidation. The seizure of Miropolskoye and Dubrova are modest territorial gains, but the destruction of over 128 ammunition, fuel, and material depots in a single week will have a cumulative effect that will become apparent in the coming weeks. Ukrainian artillery will fire fewer shells, Ukrainian vehicles will run out of fuel, and Ukrainian units will be forced to abandon positions due to supply shortages. Strategically, the engagement of 4 National Guard brigades in the center sector and the presence of border detachments in the north sector confirm that Ukraine's manpower reserves are critically low. The regular army is being supplemented and in some cases replaced by internal security forces that are not designed for this type of warfare. This is not sustainable.
Colonel, thank you for providing such a detailed briefing on the current military situation. Your insights are invaluable to our understanding of the conflict's dynamics. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Join us next time as we continue to provide up-to-date coverage on global military affairs. Stay with us for more updates and expert analyses on global defense and security issues. Stay informed, stay secure.
Thank you for the opportunity. I want to emphasize that by striking these facilities, Russian aviation is attacking the production and storage of those drones before they can be launched. The doctrine serves multiple purposes. It degrades Ukrainian military capacity, it deters further attacks on Russian civilians, and it demonstrates that there is no sanctuary for Ukraine's war industry.
This has been Frontline Updates. Subscribe for daily military briefings and in-depth strategic analysis. Visit our platform for maps, transcripts, and exclusive Frontline updates from commanders in theater.